Welcoming all to the course Database Management System. Myself, Mohammad Asifuddin Mundal, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Narula Institute of Technology. And this is lecture number 32, and this will cover Chapter 7, Transaction Management System. And these are the topics which I am going to cover during this lecture. Already I have discussed about the serial schedule and the concurrent schedule in the previous lecture, but again for recap purpose, again I am discuss the concept of serial and concurrent schedule, and then I will compare them. Then I will discuss the concurrent schedule and what are the issues should arise in concurrent schedule. Then I will discuss about the concept of serializability, as well as I will discuss about the concept of conflict serializability. So what is serial schedule? Now serial schedule is the schedule which consists of sequence of instruction from various transactions where the instructions belonging to one single transaction appear together in that schedule. That means all the instruction those belongs to a particular transaction should appear together in a single place in that schedule is known as serial schedule. If you look at that schedule, this one, if you look at that one, let me mark it. Suppose this one, you consider this schedule. If you look at two transactions are there, T1 and T2. These are the instruction which belongs to T1, and all these instructions appear together in a single place. Similarly, these are the instruction which belongs to T2, and all the instruction of T2 comes together in a single place. So this is known as serial schedule, and serial schedule represents the scenario where the computer or the system, the CPU actually executing one transaction at a time. That means CPU at a particular point of time executes a single transaction. Once that transaction is over, then CPU start executing the other transaction. From that serial schedule, we can conclude that the central processing unit or the CPU of the computer system first start executing T1. Once T1 successfully completed its execution, CPU release the T1, and then CPU switches to the next transaction T2 and start executing the T2. That means we can conclude from the serial schedule is that once T1 gets completed, then T2 starts. So if a system execute one transaction at a time, that means transactions are executing serially in some order, then that kind of scenario can be represented with the help of serial schedule. The next is the concurrent schedule. Concurrent schedule means the schedule where the instruction from particular transaction are not belongs to a single place, rather they are discrete, they appear in the schedule in a discrete manner. For example, this is the example of concurrent schedule. If you look at the transaction T1, these are the instruction which belongs to T1, but the point here is that all the instructions belong to transaction T1 are not appear together in a single place. Rather, the instruction are appear in the schedule in a discrete manner. The first, initially, the first instruction of T1 is there. In the second, the instruction belong to T2 appears here, and then again the last three instruction of T1 appears again here. So that means the instruction belong to a particular transaction not appear together in a single place, rather they appear in the schedule in a discrete manner. So it is known as concurrent schedule. If CPU, if a central processing unit CPU of the system execute multiple transactions at a single point of time, then that kind of scenario is represented by concurrent schedule. That means CPU executes multiple transactions one at a time. Now how, but actually in reality CPU executes single transaction at a single point of time, but it switches between the transaction so fast it makes an illusion to the user that CPU executing all the transactions at the same point of time. So how it switches, let's see. From that concurrent schedule we can conclude that CPU first start executing transaction T1. So initially CPU start executing the transaction T1, and suppose CPU executing first 3 instruction of T1, and up to that point of time CPU release the transaction T1, then perform the context switching. Context switching means CPU save the state of transaction T1 in the PCB. Already I have discussed PCB in the last lecture. PCB is the process control block. It's a data structure where CPU store all the state of transaction T1 in that data structure. So when CPU release the transaction T1, then at that point of time CPU save the current state of transaction T1 to the data structure PCB. This is known as context switch. Then CPU release the T1, release the cross means CPU release the T1, then CPU start executing transaction T2. That means CPU at current point of time executing transaction T2. Then at that point of time let me try it. So at that point of time, once these 4 instructions of T2 are already executed by CPU, then CPU release the transaction T2 and then again perform the context switch. Means the current state of transaction T2 is saved in another PCB which is related to T2, and then again CPU go back to the transaction T1 and start executing rest of the instruction, and once T1 completed, again CPU perform the context switch, and then again CPU go back to the transaction T2 and start executing the rest of the instruction. So that is how CPU switches among the transaction, and switches between the transaction by the CPU is so fast it makes an illusion to the user that CPU are executing all the transaction at the same point of time. And another important question may arise in your mind is that how it is going to be determined how much portion or how many instruction of a particular transaction is going to be executed by CPU. Exactly, it is totally depends on the CPU. That means in that example what we can see there, CPU first executing first 3 instruction, then go back to the transaction T2, then CPU executing the first 4 instruction of T2. But this is not a rigid kind of thing. That means CPU can execute any number of instruction of a particular transaction. It's totally solely depends upon CPU. It may happen that CPU start executing T1, but CPU only execute first 2 instruction, then go back to T2. It may happen that CPU execute all the instruction of T2, then go back to T1. So it may be any permutation combination kind of thing. It's totally how many instruction of a particular transaction is going to be executed by the CPU is totally depend upon the CPU. That means you can get use a many number of concurrent schedule. This is the one scenario where first instruction are executed, then 4 instructions from T2 executed. So that means for a set of n transaction, here only we have 2 transactions. If there is multiple transactions, say n number of transactions are there, so if there is a set of n transactions are there, then there exist factorial n number of different valid schedule. And next question is whether these 2 schedule shown in here are produce same database state or not. So the question is whether this schedule, this one and this one, they will are equivalent. Equivalent means whether they will produce the same database state or not. I think this is already done. What we have seen. Suppose let me draw it. Suppose this is the database A. Suppose 100 rupees is there. B is here, and suppose these are the hard disks. B is 200, and this is in the hard disk. Already we have seen what happened. Transaction T1, what actually it does, it debit $50 from account A and credit account B with $50. And what T2 does, it transfer 10% from account A and credit the same to the account B. So again, let's check what will be the value of A and B. So as already we know that read A means in the RAM. So this is RAM. This is RAM. Read A means a copy will be in the RAM. This is A. It will be 100. A minus 50. It becomes 50. Write A. Write A means that value will be written over here. So that becomes 50. Next, read B means it will be over here. So this is B. The value is 200. This is B 200. Then B equal to B plus 50 means the value which is credited from A, debited from A is credited to B, so it becomes 250. Same, then write B. Write B means the value of B is copied from RAM to hard disk, so it becomes 250. Then what happened? Once T1 completes, the current state of database is A plus B is 50 plus 250 is 300. Next, T2 start executing. Read A. Read A means it will read the value of A from hard disk to RAM. So another, so this is another, so same RAM, but I am writing over here. This is the local buffer correspond to T1. So another local buffer will be created for transaction T2. Suppose this is the local buffer of transaction T2. So A will be there. Read A. What is the current content of A is 50. So it is 50. Again, let me remind you, this is the local buffer of RAM which is belong to T1. This is the local buffer in the RAM. In that local buffer correspond to T2. Read A means it will read the value from hard disk. Now the current value of A is 50. Then it will perform temp equal to A into 0.1. Temp is equal to A into 0.1 means it will, the value of temp is equal to 10% of A. Now 10% of account A. So the current value of A is 50. So 10% of 50 means temp becomes 5, and that value 5 will be deducted from A. That means as if the 10% of the current value of A is deducted or debited. So A is equal to A minus temp means modification will be over in the RAM. So 50 minus 5, that means it becomes now 45. So it becomes, so it becomes 45. Then write A. Write A means writing back to over here in the hard disk. So 50 becomes 45. I am writing over here. So the current value of A now becomes 45. Next, write A. Write A is completed. Next, read B. Read B means again in the local buffer of transaction T2, space will be occupied or copied and the value of B is copied from hard disk over here, so it becomes 250. Then B is equal to B plus temp. What is the value of temp? Temp is 5, so 250 plus 5, it becomes 255. Then write B means that value is written back over here, so it becomes 255. Writing over here 255. So transaction T2 gets completed. Now if you look at what is the value of A plus B, if you look at A plus B means once both the transactions are completed, now what is the value of A plus B? 45 plus 255, it becomes 300. So 55 plus 45, the value of A is 45, value of B is 255, so it becomes 300. And what was the initial value of A plus B? Initial value in the sense, what was the value of A plus B before transaction executes? Before T1 and T2 executes, the value of A plus B was 300. After successful execution of T1 and then after execution of T2, the value of A plus B also 35. So that means that the database was in consistent state after successful execution of T1 and T2 serially. So that means that schedule, if that schedule is there and CPU executes the transaction according to that schedule, the database system will be in consistent state. Now let's check whether the concurrent schedule, which is shown here, whether the after execution of that concurrent schedule, whether this also will produce the consistent database or not. Let's check. So again, dotted diagram means dry run. So this is the hard disk. The initial value of A and B is 100 and 200 respectively, and now we are considering this concurrent schedule. Let's draw the RAM. So first CPU start executing the transaction T1. So first instruction is read A, means this is A. So read A means the value 100 will be copied from hard disk to RAM. And another point here is that this is the local buffer in the RAM belongs to transaction T1. So this is for T1, transaction T1. Then A is equal to A minus 50, so it becomes 50. Then write A means write it back to A, so it becomes 50. Next, then after that point of time, CPU now executing transaction T2. Suppose this is the local buffer within the RAM, and this local buffer corresponds to transaction T2. So this is the local buffer correspond to T2. So read A means similarly space will be occupied for A. So this is A. Now read A. Read A means now transaction T2 is concurrently executing by the CPU. So T1 is half done. Now T2 start executing and T2 reads the value of A. Now the value of A is currently 50. So it becomes 50 over here. Read A means the content of A will be copied from hard disk to RAM in the local buffer of T2. Temp is equal to A into 0.1. That means 10% of A is 5. So temp is 5. So A is equal to A minus 5 means the value is deducted by 5 means it becomes now 45. So this is 45. Then write A. Write A means the value of A is written back to over here A. So it becomes 45. So it becomes 45. No issue with that. Now at that point of time, CPU switches back to transaction T1. So read B means the value of B will be copied to the local buffer. It belongs to transaction T1. So this is B. The value of B is 200. B is equal to B plus 50 means it becomes 250. And then write B means value is written back over here. So it becomes 250. Next, after that time slot, CPU switches, release the T1 and switches back to transaction T2. Read B means B will be copied from hard disk to the local buffer which is belong to T2. So this is the local buffer of T2. So this is B. And read B, content of B is 250. So it will be copied. Then B is equal to B plus 10. 250 plus 5. It becomes 255. Then write B means the value of B again written back over here. So it becomes 255. So at that point of time, CPU successfully execute T1 and T2 concurrently means parallelly, and once both the transactions are completed execution, let's check what is the value of A plus B. A plus B. Now what is the value of A is 45. What is the value of B? 255. So it becomes 300. So that means after concurrent execution of transaction T1 and T2 by the CPU, still database is in consistent state. That means in both the schedule, the sum A plus B is preserved. A plus B is preserved means before the execution of the transaction and after the execution of the transaction, the sum of A plus B is same in both the schedule. But it is not always possible that concurrent execution of transaction leads to a consistent state. In many cases, it has been seen that concurrent execution of transaction leaves the database in inconsistent state. Though in that example, concurrent execution of the transaction, the database system is in consistent state. But many of the cases, it has been seen that due to execution of transaction concurrently, database system is become inconsistent state. So in the next slide, we will see a concurrent transaction or a concurrent schedule which will lead the database in an inconsistent state. Let's see. So consider this schedule. Again, we have to draw the database, otherwise it will be difficult to understand. We will check whether the execution of concurrent execution of the transaction leaves the database is in consistent state or inconsistent state. So initially, suppose A is 100, this is A, this is B. Initially value of A and B is say $100 and $200 or rupees, whatever it be. Now CPU start with T1, say this is the local buffer belongs to T1. So read A means A will be copied, value of A becomes 100, then A equal to A minus 50. This is very vital point. In that time slot, CPU execute T1, A equal to A minus 50. All the modification will be done over here. So this is A, let me mark it as A. So it becomes $50. But then no write operation is here, means $50 is not updated in the actual database A. Then at that point of time, CPU start executing T2, means CPU release T1, CPU start executing transaction T2. So T2 in the RAM, again another local buffer will be assigned for T2. Say this is the local buffer correspond to transaction T2. Read A, So this is the place of A. So this is A. Read A means it will read transaction T2 read from database A. Now the here, though the value of A is modified, but it is modified in the local buffer, not in the hard disk. So when T2 reads A, it is going to read the actual value or the old value of A. So read A means that value is read. So it will be $100 or 100 rupees, whatever it be. Temp is equal to A into 0.1. So 10% of A means it will become 10. Then A is equal to A minus 10. So value will be deducted. It will be 90 rupees or $90. Then write A. So the value is written back to A. So it becomes 90. It becomes 90 rupees. Then read B. Read B means it reads from hard disk. So it is B. Now the value of B is 200. Now after that time slot, CPU release T2 and CPU start again back to T1. So write A. Write A means what is the value of A? Actually the A means it will indicate this A because this is the local buffer belongs to T1. So A means it will indicate the current content of A which belongs to local buffer of T1. So this is the local buffer of T1 and in that local buffer value of A is 50. So that value will be written back over here. So that means that value is written back over here. So 90 will be updated with the current value of 50. I'm writing over here 50. Then read B means the value of B will be read into the local buffer belongs to T1. This is the local buffer of T1. So this is the V. Value of B is 200. Then B is updated, B equal to B plus 50. So it becomes 250. Then write B. So back to write B. So it becomes 250. I'm writing over here. So value of B is updated with 250. Now at the time slot, the time slot is over. CPU release the T1, CPU back to T2. Now CPU execute the last two instruction of T2. What is the instruction? B is equal to B plus 10. Now B means which B? This one or this one? Now CPU executing transaction T2 means B refers to this B because this is the local buffer in the RAM which belongs to T2. So B means this one. So what is the current content of B is 200. So 200 will be updated with temp. What is the temp? Value of temp is 10. So it becomes 210. Then write B means the value will be written over here. So it will be updated with the value of B is which is 210. And then transaction, both the transaction completed. CPU have done completed all the transaction. Now once both the transaction has completed execution, let's check what is the sum of A and B. Now A plus B equal to what is the value of A? Current value of A is 50 and what is the value of B is 210. So 50 plus 210 means we will get 260. Now if you look at when transactions start execution, so at that point of time the A of B was 300. When the transaction was not executed at that point of time, value of A was 100, value of B was 200. So A plus B was 300. But once transaction executed concurrently by the CPU and the execution was successful, then also sum of B, what we will get is 260, means it was 300 before transaction executed, but once transaction completes its execution, even though it's completed successfully, then also what we are getting 260, means $30 $40, the 40 rupees gets destroyed. That means we can say that database is not in consistent state, so database become inconsistent. That means even if the CPU executes the transaction successfully, then also this concurrent execution of the transaction leads to the database in an inconsistent state. So from this scenario we can conclude that not always the concurrent execution of transaction leads to a database system in consistent state. Rather, it may happen that due to execution of concurrent execution of the transaction, it leads to inconsistent state. So this is the major problem. Database always need to be consistent state as per the ACID property. Now there is a component, concurrency control component is there. The concurrency control component of the database management system has the responsibility to ensure the consistency even though execution of concurrent execution of the transaction. But how the concurrency control component is going to ensure the consistency property, or how concurrency control component provides the consistency or maintains the consistency even after concurrent execution of the transaction, we'll see in the next chapter. But before that, we must first understand which schedule will ensure consistency and which schedule will not provide consistency. So the next topic is serializability. With the help of serializability, we can check which schedule will ensure the consistency property and which schedule will not ensure the consistency property. With the help of serializability, we can test this kind of thing. So if possibly concurrent schedule is serializable, we can say the schedule is serializable if it is equivalent to a serial schedule. Means if there is concurrent schedules are there, now the concurrent schedule is going to preserve the consistency property if that concurrent schedule is converted to some other serial schedule, and then that concurrent, if that concurrent schedule is transformed into the corresponding serial schedule, then we can say that concurrent schedule is equivalent to a serial schedule. Now there are two types of techniques are there to test the serializability. One is conflict serializability, other one is the view serializability. So we will discuss here only the conflict serializability, and here we ignore the operation other than read and write instruction, and we assume that transaction may perform arbitrary computation on data in local buffer in between read and write operation. Means in while doing the conflict serializability to check whether a concurrent schedule is equivalent to a serial schedule or not, we are only considering read and write instruction. We are omitting the intermediate addition, deletion, multiplication kind of operation. We are not considering this instruction. We are only considering read and write operation. So start with conflict serializability. Our main objective is, suppose there is a concurrent schedule are there. Now we have to check whether the execution of that concurrent schedule will leave the database is an consistent state or inconsistent state. If the concurrent if we able to convert any concurrent schedule to the corresponding any serial schedule, then we can say that that concurrent schedule is conflict equivalent to a serial schedule. And if we able to convert a concurrent schedule to a corresponding serial schedule, then we can say that the execution of that concurrent schedule will leave the database in a consistent state. Now the question is, how can we convert a concurrent schedule to a corresponding serial schedule? For that we have to consider some concept. The first thing is that, suppose instructions li and lj, these two are the instruction where li instruction belongs to transaction ti and lj are the instruction which belongs to tj respectively. And these two instruction li and lj are said to be conflict instruction if and only if there exists some item q accessed by both li and lj, and at least one of the instruction is write queue operation. Let me clarify. Two instructions are there, li and lj. Li is the instruction belongs to ti, lj is the instruction belongs to tj. Now we can say that li and lj are conflict instruction if both the instruction li and lj are operating on or accessing the same or the common data item q, means both the instruction are accessing the common data item q, and at least one of the instruction of li and lj, one of the instruction is write q operation, then we say that the li and lj are conflict. For example, it may happen that li instruction is read queue, li lj is the write queue operation, then li and lj is not a conflict, because though li and lj both are accessing the common data item q, but both the operations are read, no write operations are there. If no write operations are there, only read are there, then they are not conflict, so li and lj don't conflict. But here li is a read queue, lj is a write queue, so at least one operation is write queue, so they conflict. Third case, li is write queue, lj is read queue, so at least one operation is write queue. If at least one operation is write queue and they are accessing same data item queue, then they are conflict. Next, li and lj both are operating on same data item, common data item queue, and at least one of the operation is write queue. In that case, though both the operations are write queue operation, write operation, so they are also conflict. So conflict, when it becomes conflict to instruction, if the two instruction belongs to two different transaction accessing the common data item q, and at least one of the two instruction are write queue operation, then they are termed as a conflict. Now if the instruction li and lj, which is respectively from transaction ti and tj, if these two instruction li and lj are accessing two different data items, say li accessing q and lj accessing p, then that means they are accessing two different data item, then they are not a conflict instruction. So this is the concept of conflict and non-conflict instruction. Now what we have to do, if a given concurrent schedule is given, our objective is to swap the non-conflicting instruction of two transaction. We have to swap non-conflicting instruction of the transaction so that we can make the concurrent schedule to the corresponding serial schedule. Again, I am repeating, our objective is to swap the non-conflicting instruction so that we can come up with a corresponding serial schedule. Let's check with an example. Let's first check this one. If a schedule S, suppose schedule is S, name of schedule is S, can be transformed into another schedule S prime by a series of swapping of non-conflicting instruction, then we can say that S and S prime are conflict equivalent. What I have said earlier, suppose a schedule S is given, which is concurrent schedule, and if we are able to swap the non-conflicting instruction, and ultimately if we are getting another schedule S prime, and if the S prime, whatever we have get by swapping non-conflicting instruction, then we say that S and S prime, these two instructions are conflict equivalent. Next, very important term, conflict serializable. We say that a schedule S is conflict serializable if it is conflict equivalent to a serial schedule. Means a concurrent schedule is given, suppose S is a concurrent schedule, then by swapping the non-conflicting instruction, suppose we are getting another schedule S prime, and if that schedule S prime is serial schedule, then we can say that schedule S is conflict serializable. And if a schedule S is a conflict serializable, then we can say that schedule S is going to preserve the database consistency. Now let's take an example. Suppose this is the example. Let me mark it. Consider this one. So to draw the line, suppose two transactions T3, T4 are executing. Now this is the definitely a concurrent schedule. I'm writing it is short. This is the concurrent schedule, means, and we have to check whether this schedule is conflict serializable or not. Means conflict serializable means we have to swap the instruction and check whether this schedule can be converted to other serial schedule or not. So first try to swap these two instruction, read queue, write queue, to check whether can we swap these two instruction. Now the instruction from T3 and instruction from T4, these two, they are operating on same data item Q, and at least one of the operation is write Q. That means they are conflicting instruction, and we know that if the instruction are conflict instruction, then we cannot swap their order. So you cannot swap. So read Q will be here, write Q will be definitely here. You cannot swap their order. Now let's check this one and this one. Here this T4, this write queue operation belongs to T4, this write queue operation belongs to T3, and both the operation performing on common data item Q, and at least one of the operation is write queue. Both the operation are write queue, write operation. So again these two instructions are conflicting instruction. As they are conflicting, so you cannot change their order. So they will be remain as it is as per their previous order. So you cannot change. So that means that concurrent schedule cannot be altered. The instruction cannot be altered. So that concurrent schedule cannot be converted to any serial schedule. That means that schedule is not conflict serializable. So as this schedule is not converted to other serial schedule, that means it is not a conflict serializable. And if a schedule is not a conflict serializable, then what we can say that the execution of that concurrent schedule will lead to an data inconsistency. Now let's check with another example. So check this one. Suppose this is schedule 3 and say schedule 1. Now we have to check whether schedule 3 is conflict serializable or not. What I have stated that schedule 3 is below can be transformed into schedule 1. That means that schedule 3 can be transformed into schedule 1 by swapping the non-conflicting instruction. That means schedule 3 is conflict serializable. Schedule 3 is conflict serializable, means it can be converted to other schedule which is serial schedule. Let's check whether this is serializable or not. So let's check whether can we convert it into the serial schedule or not. So start with follow the instruction carefully. So this is the given schedule. So we have to draw. I'm right, T1, this is T1, this is T2. So first instruction read A. Instead of writing full read A, I am writing RA, read A. Now next instruction write A, and next instruction is read A. So this is the instruction from T1, this is the instruction from T2, and they are operating on both same data item, and at least one of the operations is write operation. That means they are conflicting. If they are conflicting, then you cannot change the order, so they will be as it is. So WA will be in same place, read A will be in same place. For your better understanding, you may write the slots like that. So write A will be there. Now next is, so these two instructions are conflicting, so you cannot swap their order, they will be as it is. Next instruction is write A, this instruction is read B. Now if you look at, this is operating on A, this is operating on B, they are not accessing common data item. So if they are not accessing common data item, that means they are non-conflicting, and if the instructions are non-conflicting, then we can change their order. So in that time slot T1 will execute, and in that time slot T2 will execute, so they will be swapped. So here we can write read B, and in that time slot write A will come, next it will be remain same, write B will be remain same, and this two also will be remain same, read B and write B. Next again T1 T2. Now again read A will be same over here. Now write A, read A, they are conflicting, so cannot change their order. Write A will be over here, but check whether can we swap these two, this one and this one. This is read A, this is read B, they are on different data items, so we can change their order. So in that time slot T1 will execute his read B, so read B will come over here, and in that time slot T2 will execute his read A, so read A comes over here, then all the instruction will remain as it is. Write A will be here, same place, then WB, write B will be in the same place, and similarly these two will be in the same place. Means same place means same time slot, they will execute in the same time slot. Now next again T1 T2, try to convert it. So read A will be as it is, write A will be as it is in the same time slot. Now write B already swapped will be there, read A will be there because already they are swapped, no need to change. Next WA WB, they are operating on different data items, so WB will be over here and WA will be over here, so we have to write WB in that time slot, and WA will come over here, so WA come over here, and rest of the instruction will be same, write B and read B and write B. Now from here on you have to convert it again. So read A, write A, read B, all will be written over here. Read A, write A, read B, because already they have swapped, no need to swap it again, you cannot swap it again. Now next all three will be same place, in the same place. Now read A, write B, can we swap? Yes, they are operating on two different items, this is operating on A, this is operating on B, so we can swap their order. So WB will be in that time slot and read A will come over in that time slot, so read A. Next all the instruction will be same as it is in their respective time slot, write A, read B, and then write B. So if you look at, we started from here, this is S3, which is concurrent schedule. Now after swapping, after series of swapping of non-conflicting instruction, we came up with another schedule S1, and which is serial schedule. That means S3 schedule, after swapping series of instruction, swapping non-conflicting instruction, we are producing another schedule S1. That means S3 is conflict equivalent to S1, and as schedule S3 is produce the conflict equivalent schedule S1, which is serial schedule, that is why you can say that S3 is conflict serializable. Again I am repeating, from S3 after swapping the non-conflict instruction we are getting S1. That means we can say that S3 is conflict equivalent to a S1. Now as S1 is a serial schedule, that means we can say that schedule S3 is conflict serializable. Why conflict serializable? Because after swapping the non-conflicting instruction we are getting serial schedule. That is why S3 is termed as conflict serializable. That means if a CPU execute the concurrent schedule like S3, then the database will be in consistent state. Because why? Because that concurrent schedule is equivalent to a serial schedule. That means if you execute the transaction concurrently, then will produce a system state which is equivalent to a system state if had this transaction T1 and T2 are executed in that order, in serial order. That means the order of execution is kind of S3, which is equivalent to order of execution represented in S1. That means if a concurrent schedule is converted to a conflict serializable schedule, then we can say that the database will be in consistent state, means the schedule is good schedule. So this is the concept of conflict serializability, and that is how we can check whether a concurrent schedule is conflict serializable or not. These are the references you may go through for more details about transaction management system.